BMW X7 or extended wheelbase Range Rover? Which is the best 7-seater SUV? We're going to find out. Buy, sell,
Car wow.
Let's start this video by talking about the prices of these two luxury SUVs. So the X7 range starts from £85,000, whereas the Range Rover extended wheelbase starts from £107,000. However, the cars I have here aren't the entry-level models. So that is the X7 M60. That starts from £116,000. And this particular Range Rover in this spec, £127,000 list price. What really matters though is the price you pay at a dealer. For instance, through Carwow, you can save an average of just over £5,000 off the X7 range. Now, if you want to go to Carwow now to check out the latest offers, click on the pop-out banner up there for the link in the description below. And while I'm at it, huge thank you to Romans International, who've lent us this lovely Range Rover to review. Go check them out, link in the description. Considering this Range Rover is one big slab of a car, I mean, look at it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big matte steps long. It still somehow looks quite svelte. Maybe that's to do with that sloping roofline. You know, I do think that Land Rover's designers have done a fantastic job with this car. I love how they've made it so smooth, almost like a pebble that's been rounded after being washed over millions of years by the ocean. This car is so aristocratic, so regal looking. I love it. Just don't get too close to it, because then you might notice that some of the panels don't line up perfectly. Sorry to point that out. My fellow Midlanders in the Solihull factory put this car together. I wonder if the Germans have a superior attention to detail, yeah? Let's find out, shall we? So this crease on the body side of the X7, it doesn't line up 100% perfectly, but it's pretty blooming close, and it is better than on the Range Rover. Speaking of better, this new face BMW have given the X7 is better than the pre-facelift version. I like these split headlamps. However, in some ways it's a little bit too aggressive for the rest of the car. So the front is pretty much sports car, then you look down the side and go, oh yeah, it's a big family-friendly SUV. Overall though, I think this design is all right. It wouldn't put me off buying the car. Though really, that isn't what car design should be about. You know, it should actively make you want the car, like it does with the Range Rover. I look at it, I just want it. And I'm probably willing to forgive some other things about it because it looks so good. I'm less likely to do that with the X7, which means the interior better be bloody good. Thankfully, it is. It looks really nice and quality is impeccable. Everything you touch feels expensive. BMW's interiors are among the very, very best. They've actually updated the interior of this car, so it's now got this new screen like you get on the i4 and the iX. Big, long, curved screen, really nice, high definition. It's fairly easy to use through all the different controls, touch screen, swivel wheel, gestures, voice commands, though most people are just going to run Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. One of the great things about this system is that BMW have figured out how to mirror the map from Google on the digital driver's display. Most manufacturers can't do that for some reason. I like that. What I like less though is the fact that they've moved the climate controls into the touchscreen, so you now have to do it through here rather than just turning some knobs. Also not so sure about these knobs. They're the only cheap bit of trim in this car. I like this edition though. Like for this M60 version, look, you've got M light there. And when you change the driving mode, look at this. Oh yeah, it changes colour. Tiny things, please tiny minds. Can the Range Rover's interior compete with this? In some ways yes, and in some ways no. You see, the interior design on the Range Rover is more simplistic than the BMW. I like that. I also like the fact that they haven't put the climate controls through the touchscreen. Though when you want to switch between the temperature control, the fan speed and the heated seat, you have to pull and push at this dial here. The screen itself is nice and big, and it's curved like in the BMW, though in a different way. It's curved that way rather than that way. Once again, really high definition screen. I think it's a little bit more laggy than the BMW system, but it's not overly noticeable. And when you press and hit buttons, look, you get this click. Ooh, clickery. It's a bit of a shame that you don't get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto maps mirrored in the digital driver's display, but the display itself is brighter and easier to read than in the BMW, though to switch through the different menus and settings it's a little bit more of a faff. What I can't complain about though is the fact that you get metal gear selector pedals in the Range Rover rather than the plastic ones you get in the BMW. They just feel nicer to touch. However, there are some bits that are a little bit questionable for a car of this price. For instance, the plastic used up here is of similar quality that your microwave meal comes in. Now you might be thinking, Matt, well, who's going to scratch that plastic up there? No one does that. But that's just for me illustrating how cheap it is. You can see just by looking at it that it is cheaper plastic. Another thing I can see is that whoever fitted this hazard warning light button didn't manage to get it on quite straight. Look, it's a bit wonky. So these buttons here, which open and close the glove boxes, they're wonky as well. The wonkiest bit of all though is the stitching along this dash. It's completely on the piss. What's all that about? Land Rover actually made a big thing about the Range Rover going even further up market and not only competing with the likes of the BMW X7 but also Bentleys. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Land Rover, you ain't going to compete with Bentley with stitching like that. To be fair though, when you get into the back seats of the Range Rover, you do notice some things which are actually quite Bentley-like. For instance, this particular Range Rover has a leather roof lining. It's gorgeous, that is. Then there's the intricate mechanism of the grab handles. You don't get this kind of thing on just normal run-of-the-mill cars. Even the pockets on the seat backs just feel expensive, and the mats, they have a thick pile. Then there's the space itself back here. I mean, look at it. I've got so much room, loads of knee room, loads of headroom. To be fair, this seat is as far back as it will go, but if you need to carry 3 people in the back at once as well, it's no problem at all. This car is so wide and there's so much space that there's easily enough room for 3 people to sit in comfort. Surely the BMW can't be as accommodating as this huge Range Rover. Well, you know what? With these seats as far back as they can go, it does feel almost as big as the Range Rover. Look, tons of knee room. Headroom's really good as well. The only thing is it doesn't feel quite as wide. Maybe that's because the side seems to just curve in a bit more because it's less boxy shaped than the Range Rover. And you notice that when you have 3 in the back at once, there's not quite as much shoulder room between 3 adults. There are a couple of other things that aren't quite as nice as in the Range Rover. For instance, these pockets just don't feel quite as substantial. The pile of the floor mats is a lot thinner. While we do have a nice suede-like roof lining, doesn't seem as luxurious as leather. And yeah, that's just everyday car stuff, this grab handle. Nothing special there. However, one of the big selling points of these cars is the fact that they are 7-seaters. So now it's time to check out the rearmost row. You might be wondering why I've come to the driver's seat to show you the rearmost row in the X7. Well, because I first want to show you this feature. You can actually give people access to the back by pressing this button here from the driver's seat. So press it and the seats start to move. There we go, moving out of the way. Obviously you can control the seats from buttons here and on the seat as well. So what's it like getting to the very back? Well, the gap's large enough, so yeah, you can climb in okay. Now I'm just going to pull the seat back by pressing the button just up there. See how much room we have. Okay, oh, it's coming back a bit more. So that's it, quite far back, not quite as far back as it'll go. Knee room's okay, but I can actually slide this seat further forward and there'll still be enough room for someone to sit comfortably in this seat. So knee room's good. Headroom, look, 2 fingers, that's okay. That's okay. I reckon people who are a little bit taller than me will be fine in the back. The seats are quite raised up from the floor, so you don't feel like you're squatting or in a stressed position. And there's cutouts underneath the seats for you to put your feet underneath. It's not so good if you're this side because obviously the way this splits 40-60 means there's less foot room here than under that seat. One thing I do like about this particular car though is not only do you have sunroof which goes to the front and the middle row, you also have your own separate sunroof here in the 3rd row. Not sure if you get that in the Range Rover. Let's find out. No, it doesn't seem to. That's a shame. Makes it look a little bit darker back there. Anyway, let's try and get into the back. So press this button to move the seat forward. Can't do it from the driver's seat, unfortunately. But there does seem to be more room than in the BMW to get in. I am going to have to move this seat so you can see exactly what's going on back here. Let's go, there it is. While that's happening, let's bring this one back. Come on, come back. As you're told. Now you can see from this angle that yeah, knee room is okay. And I'm going to need that because actually headroom is pretty tight, especially if you sit back. My head is hitting against this ridge here. I'm 179 centimeters tall. Kids will be fine, but anyone taller than me is going to struggle a little bit. Still, there is enough knee room for me to be able to slouch a bit. And because there's a decent cutout underneath the seat in front, I can fit my feet under there. There's more foot space actually than in the BMW. Another thing that I think is better in this than the BMW is these rear seats are raised even more off the ground than in the BMW. So you've got more under thigh support. So overall, it is just a little bit more comfortable here in the very back compared to the BMW, especially as you can get heated seats in the very back row here in the Range Rover. Once again, I'm going to come back to it. I am missing that sunroof. It all feels a bit more claustrophobic despite the fact there are some decent sized back windows. Anyway, enough about carrying people. What are these cars like for carrying their stuff? Both these cars have electrically operated tailgates with a handy split fold function, and you can lower them on their air suspension as well to make it easier to load them. Just let out a little farty sound. Hopefully there's no follow through. Now, with 7 seats in place, this has a slightly larger load capacity, 330 litres compared to 210 for that. It's about 50% larger. However, when you fold down that third row in both the vehicles, you find out that the Range Rover has the largest capacity, 860 litres, compared to 750 for the BMW. Though, if you need even more space, you can then fold all the seats down and basically turn these vehicles to posh, luxurious vans. Oh my God, that's huge. No, it's not completely flat, and neither is that quite. They're both very similar, though I think overall that has more space, because just look how tall it is inside. Anyway, once you're done, you can shut them up like this. And it does both the top and bottom part of the tailgate. And at that point, you notice that the tail lights on the Range Rover are definitely cooler than on the BMW, because when the lights aren't on, you don't see the tail lights at all. They like blend into the body. See? One of the things about this car is that you just seem to sit higher and have a better view out than other SUVs. And I'll illustrate the difference to the X7 now using my assistant. So I've got the car's air suspension in its mid setting. So can you measure how high my eyes are off the ground? See how raised up I am? What you got?
158 centimetres.
Right, so 158 centimetres in the Range Rover. What's it in the BMW? I can tell you right away that I feel like I'm lower down in the X7, but let's find out the exact number. Come on then. Measure me again. We've got the carwow tape measure of truth. So, what's it saying?
149.
Ooh, 149. That's 9 centimetres lower. There is one last thing to compare though, and that's the engines. So both of these cars are available with petrol or diesel power. This is the diesel version of the long wheelbase Range Rover. It's a 3 litre straight 6 diesel with 350 horsepower. You can also get a 3 litre straight 6 turbo petrol with 400 horsepower, or a 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 with 530 horsepower, which interestingly is an engine from BMW, though it's not this 4.4 litre twin turbo V8 in the M60, because that's actually built by BMW's M division, and they won't give their M engines to Land Rover. Other choices are a 3 litre straight 6 turbo petrol with 381 horsepower, or a 3 litre straight 6 diesel with 352 horsepower. Both these cars have 8-speed automatic gearboxes and all-wheel drive. So now, shall we see how they compare out on the road? Right, now let's see how quick these cars are from 0 to 60 miles an hour by launching them, and how close they get to their manufacturer's claim time. First up, the BMW, supposed to do 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. Let's go. Wow, that shot off. It's going to be quicker. And it is 4.0 seconds. That is nuts! Way quicker than BMW said. Will it be a similar story with the Range Rover? Land Rover says 0 to 60 takes 6.4 seconds, but what does a specialist timing gear say? Let's find out. Brake boost, release. Here we go. Come on, what's the number? Ooh, 6.2 seconds. Not bad for a diesel. Okay, so we see what the acceleration from a standstill is like in this Range Rover, but what's it like when you're driving along at 40, then you meet a dual carriage or a motorway, you need to get up to 70 miles an hour. Let's see how it responds, and the gearbox. So I'm going to floor it. Here we go. Bit of a pause there between me flooring it and it actually doing something, but now once it's in its stride, this diesel has some serious pulling power, and when you're cruising along at speed, it's a very relaxing car to travel in. Hardly any road noise from those big wheels. It's surprising. Little bit of wind flutter just here and there, but overall very, very relaxing. I'm also a little bit more relaxed than you might imagine, because I've got the massage seat on now and I'm being gently kneaded. Yeah, nice car to cruise around in this. The economy is all right as well. It's not too bad for a big thing. Now, we all expect a Range Rover to do well when you're cruising on the motorway. But what about a twisty road? You know, this is a big, tall, heavy vehicle. Let's find out. Here we go, it's a corner. Right, that's surprising. It feels like it's going to topple over, but it somehow just grips into the road and goes round. Now, part of the reason for that is that it comes as standard with active anti-roll bars, and it stops it leaning so much in the bends. It's quite surprising, actually, what it can do. However, it's no sports car. It's no sports utility vehicle even. It still has a very much like leisurely approach to going down a country road. Part of the reason for that is the steering. It's very, very light. You're not entirely sure what the front wheels are doing. No. Also, it's quite big, so when you go past a coach like that, it can be a bit scary. Can't fault the brakes though. Nice and strong, nice and progressive as well, not grabby at all. And actually, you can keep up with most cars you can in this thing. And then, of course, the other area where it matters, in town. And that's when you really appreciate that raised driving position where you can just look down. Oh, here's another big coach. Well, it's a bus, that one. Oh, God. I said you can look down on other vehicles unless they're a bus or a coach. Can't look down on them. But everyone else pretty much, or maybe a van. Van drivers also sit higher. In fact, don't bother getting a Range Rover, just get a van. Vans also have the same thing as this. Look, this kind of armrest, which is really nice. What vans don't tend to have, though, a feature that's so important on this, especially when you're just pottering around town, is rear wheel steering as standard. So despite being bloody long, this car has a turning circle of 11.5 meters, which is insanely good. Just watch this. I can turn around in here without curbing those massive alloy wheels. And look, I can use this bird's eye view to make sure that I don't. It's so manoeuvrable, actually more manoeuvrable than that Honda Civic in front. This car's gonna take some beating. Is the BMW X7 up to the task? Right then, X7, let's see what you got. Starting off with pickup from 40 miles an hour when you come to a dual carriageway or motorway, so I'm gonna floor it. Once again, a pause as the gearbox decides what to do, but now I'm really feeling the power of this 4.4 litre twin turbo V8. It absolutely took off and sounded pretty awesome as well, though I think some of that noise is played through the speaker. Speaking of which, I think this car is slightly quieter than the Range Rover, ever so slightly. I'm not getting any tyre noise at all. Once again, amazing considering the size of the wheels, but there seems to be a little less flutter of wind. I bet the economy is not as good as the Range Rover though. No, it's 18 miles to the gallon. That's the price you pay for that twin turbo V8. I'm sure this car can pull things back on a twisty road, so let's try it. Put it into sport. Like with the Range Rover, we've got active anti-roll bars to stop it leaning, but they're an optional on most X7s, so you do get them as standard on this M60 version. This car feels way more sporty than the Range Rover. It's really quite incredible how it manages to be pretty much as comfortable as you're just floating over bumps. In some ways, it's actually better at dealing with bumps than the Range Rover. Yet at the same time, it's more tied down. It doesn't feel quite so wallowy. It's more precise. And the steering is definitely, just feels more connected to the road than the Range Rover. Gives you more confidence to go quickly. Doesn't feel quite as wide either. I'm not so nervous of getting closer to the vehicles. I don't know why that is. One thing I am missing though is that raised driving position. I mean, obviously it's raised up in this, but you do notice the difference with the Range Rover. You just feel a little bit more superior. And I'm also missing the armrest, the special armrest on the seat. Damn it. There's another thing I miss with this car, and that's the turning circle of the Range Rover. This still has rear wheel steering. Once again, it's an optional on most X7s, but the M60 gets it as standard. However, despite having rear wheel steering, the turning circle is still almost a metre more than the long wheelbase Range Rover. So I'm gonna have to be more careful here. Come on, maybe we can still make it. Yeah, still made it. It's 12.4 metres. Still, I do like this car overall. It's just a great balance of comfort and handling. It's amazing what BMW have achieved with it. It sort of does it all. So then what's my final verdict? Well, these cars are both very closely matched, and really this Range Rover, there's something special about it. It makes you just want it. However, I've got to be objective, and really in many ways the BMW is actually the better car. It's superior dynamically on road, because that's what really matters. Most people won't ever take these cars off-roading. Also, it's got better build quality and it's better value for money as well. And that's why, overall, it wins this test. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know if you agree with my verdict in the comments below. Click on those windows there for some more videos. And on that box there to go to carwow to change your car. Not only can you buy your next car through carwow, you can also sell your current car through us as well. It's dead easy.